a 5-point plan, thank you, for Avshalom, given by Achitophel, thank you. And we see here in the opening verses, by the way, we said yesterday, Avshalom knows the history and career of Achitophel, like the smartest guy in the country. And David would often, the Gemara explains, David would often go to him for advice for everything and anything. And you know what? David would give him honor. But we're going to learn here that Achitophel is just a man that's looking for honor. He's a greedy person. He's messed up. He's looking for honor. And here he changes his skin from supporting David, now supporting the revolt of Avshalom. So here we can see, by the way, it's not the Malbim, it's the Abar Benel. In the first 3 psukim, we can see a 5-point plan of Achitophel. Number 1, there's no need to mobilize a large army. Enough is 12,000 of good soldiers we're talking about. That's why he says Efcharana. He's going to choose of the best. By doing so, certainly you can mobilize a small army faster, and they can go ahead and do what they have to do, as opposed to a large army. Right now, remember, Avshalom walked into the city untouched, unharmed. He's had relations with the Pilakshim of David, and right now he needs an answer what to do. He's taking first advice with Avshalom. He's going to take second advice with Hushai, who's a hidden agent on behalf of David, as we know. So strategy number 1, the best of 12,000 soldiers. Then we can mobilize them fast. Number 2, I'll go out there and not you. And we explained that if Avshalom goes out to the army field and he's going to be killed, that's the end of the revolt. So I will go, you stay back. Number 3, the element of surprise. We're going to start pursuit nighttime. Okay? And number 4, we said the intent of the forces is to go out and kill Hamelech Levado. I'm not interested, Achitophel saying, in shedding blood amongst other soldiers. No, we're just looking for pinpoint. We're looking for what we call in Hebrew tzalafim, sharpshooters, that will be able to wipe out David, and David Levado is the last word by himself. Number 5, a promise that after things calm down, let's read it, Pasuk Gimel, verse 3, V'yashiva cholam elecha, I'll bring you national support. Keshuvako, when everything comes back, everyone will come to you. Ha'ish asher ta mevakesh, kol ha'am yesh shalom. There will be national peace. Okay? So, what it seems here is that after these 5 points, it seems that maybe the center of all this advice is there's no interest in going to civil war, shedding blood. Achitophel's idea is just to look and search for David, kill him, and that's it. Because if there's going to be bloodshed, there's going to be hatred. If there's going to be hatred, there's going to be future problems. This is the plan. Only not to divide the nation into 2, as the Malbim explains. Because if that's the case, a lot of noise, a lot of rebellions, a lot of blood, no. A lot of people killed, no. He doesn't want that. They want friendship. They want love. How? In order just to kill David and nothing more. What is the response of Mr. Avshalom? Pasuk 4. Vayishar adavar beinei Avshalom uveinei kol ziknei Yisrael. Notice what Avshalom says, or what he feels in his mind. Vayishar hadavar. Does it say vayitav hadavar? If I'm not mistaken, the Malbim, I didn't bring that as a question. The Malbim asks, one of the great later commentators, why doesn't it say that this advice is good advice? Why does it say rather vayishar? Okay? So the Malbim says, as far as the leadership is concerned, as far as strategy and getting an objective is concerned, this seems the best way. But of course, to kill your own father, or to have your father killed, you will not say which word? That this vayitav, that this advice is good. Now notice who is hearing this advice. It's not Avshalom alone, he has a tribune. It says, Kol Ziknei Yisrael. Now, let me ask you something. Ziknei Yisrael usually means the Sanhedrin. Come on, give me a break. Do you think the Sanhedrin in this generation is in favor of killing David, the biggest tzaddik that we have? Right. So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Kuf Bet, on 102, here we're talking about there are Zkanim that are scholars, and there are Zkanim that's called Zaken Ashmai, ignorant. This is like a made-up, a makeshift court. These scholars, like, I don't know, from the Reform program or the Conservative auditorium, but we're talking not really about real scholars, but what they call phonies, Zaken Ashmai, Zaken Ashmai. Now, does Avshalom immediately improvise his policy? No. Why? He wants to hear another advice, and here's where David's smartness comes in, that he planted Hushai, who's a well-known smart man, but doesn't have the credentials of an Avshalom, because of a Achitophel. Achitophel, we said at the end of last chapter, wow, his words, what strategy, what smartness. People would consider his words like as if you asked the Kohen Gadol with the Urim V'Tumim. Here, Avshalom maybe is a little reluctant. Pasuk 5. Vayomer Avshalom, Krana, please call. Gam lechushai ha'arki. V'nishma ma befiv gam hu. Notice he says v'nishma'a. Already he's using the we language. Who is the we? Right. He has a system. He has Achitophel with him. He has the elders of Israel with him. He wants everyone to hear. Now, why do you think Krana Gam, the word Gam, also who? By saying that Hushai he also has to be called, that means Avshalom is giving credit to Hushai that he too is part of what? One of his key advisors. He's the 08. He's an advisor for Avshalom. Okay? It could mean further that if he's calling for another advice, what do you think he feels inside his system? It's not. Maybe he's not happy really with it's yashar. It sounds like logical strategy, but maybe inside himself he's not 100% sure. Otherwise, why ask for other advice? So it's very possible that the very calling out to Hushai by Avshalom will teach us that Avshalom doesn't feel 100% good with this advice. Okay?
Who doesn't feel 100%?
Avshalom.
Second opinion.
And therefore, I want to, right. You want a second opinion?
What part of the advice doesn't he feel comfortable?
Look, maybe he's a little reluctant. Look, I don't know. What do you think?
He doesn't want to on, though.
He doesn't, but you know what? He's having someone else do the dirty work for him.
Capture King David as a prisoner.
Maybe you're right. Maybe if he's captured, maybe they'll be better off. Why kill a father? Now, let's go to Pasuk 6. And we're going to ask ourselves here in verse 6 and 7, how does Hushai win the confidence of Avshalom? We want to notice now two very smart and diplomatic phrases he says in question 2 in our worksheet. Vayavo Hushai el Avshalom, he arrives. Vayomer Avshalom elav le'mor, and Avshalom shares with him the problem. Kadavar hazeh diber Achitophel. He spells out maybe the 5 points of the plan of Achitophel. And now he asks Hushai, Hana'aseh et dvaro? Should we go ahead and do what he says? Im ayin or not, ata daber. If not, then you should speak up. Okay? And now, listen to what Hushai says. Vayomer Hushai el Avshalom, a very declarative statement. Follow the Hebrew if you can. Lo tova ha'etza asher yatza Achitophel ba'pa'am hazot. Do you notice what he says? Lo tova ha'etza. Lo tova ha'etza. the advice is not good. He doesn't say the matter is not good, but rather the advice is not good. Because if the advice would be good to reach the objective, I would agree. What is he allowing Avshalom to believe regarding Hushai?
He's loyal to him.
I'm loyal to you. This advice is not good. Meaning, if it would be good advice, I would agree. That's point number one. Point number two, he says.
He basically agrees to the plan to over.
Very good. He agrees. We got to catch David. But notice his second phrase that he says, which is very strategic.
This time,
Oh, very nice, David. He says, "Lo tova itza she'atzar Achitofel ba'pa'am hazot." Only this time. I'm adding the word only, but this time his advice is not good. What is he alluding to? Usually his advice is top notch. Usually his advice is top notch. And in other words, what is he showing? I agree often with Achitofel. I think he gives great advice all the time. This time, no. This time it's not good. So Hushai, in his language, sharp, short, allowing Avshalom to think, I'm loyal to you. I want this objective, but this is not the right way. Okay? Very nice. And now we're ready to see in question 3b, actually question 3a first, in verses 8 to 10, let's see the strategy of Hushai. How does he counter his colleague's advice? Let's see if we can find it. Okay, Pasuk, Chet, verse 8. Vayomer Hushai, Ata yadat et avicha v'et anashav. You know who your father is. You know the people that are surrounding him. Ki giborim hema. Wow, they're special unit soldiers. They're very courageous. Okay? Umarei nefesh hema. And they give up their lives, they risk their lives in all the things they do. Kedov shakul basadeh. They're likened to who? Like a bear that lost his parents, that he must survive and do anything and everything for all matters. In other words, have you ever seen a very cruel bear fight? Don't be in his area. Okay? The grizzly bear. V'avicha, and last he says, Ish milchama. He's a man of war. And the last point, Velo yalin et ha'am. Let's now try to take apart these statements. Number one, Hushai counteracts what Achitofel says. Achitofel said, we didn't really speak about it, at the end of verse 2. David will be weary, weak. We're going to scare him. He'll flee, and so on and so forth. What strategy goes up against that David is weary and tired? Huh? Your father is a gibor. He's a man of experience. He'll be ready at night. You're not going to scare him. You're not going to scare him. That's point one. Point number two, his ability to go fight is what? There are people that risk their lives. And what about not scaring? What about surprising him at night? He doesn't sleep at night. He and his soldiers are not going to sleep. Okay? So, Aleph, he's not weak. Bet, you're not going to scare him. Number 3, you're not going to surprise him at night. Furthermore, the fact that he's like a grizzly bear, it'll give him the ability, the cruelty to stand up against many forces. That's not going to be over him. Furthermore, he's a man of tactics. He's a man of experience of war. So all these parts that Mr. Hushai are saying are putting down the strategy of Achitofel. So notice, He listened carefully to the strategy of Achitophel, and he now makes points that are directly the opposite. What do you say?
Agree.
Okay? Now, furthermore, what does he say about your father? Okay? Pasuk, and notice what he says. I want you to notice, Avicha is mentioned twice. Did you notice that? Your father. Once in Pasuk Chet, and a second time in Pasuk Chet. Why do you think Hushai used the personal pronoun, your father?
To remind you that we are fighting with your father.
What is he trying to arouse?
Respect.
Very nice. No, not respect, but mercy. Mercy. Le'orer rachamei aben. Okay? We know that it's against nature to support a policy to kill your father. It's against your nature. If Hushai giving hardcore strategy can win the advice and also arouse mercy of Avshalom over his father David, then it'll be successful. Okay? Now let's go on to verse 9. Hine, who's continuing to speak here, gentlemen? Hushai. Hine, behold, Ata, you know what's happening now without a closed circuit television? Hu nechba be'achat ha-pchatim. You know where he is? He's hiding in some cave, some pit. You think you're going to find him? You're not going to find him. He's like hiding out in some caves. Oh, be'achad ha-mekomot, one of the maybe distant places perhaps. Vaya, and it'll be. Kinfol be'em batchila. You know what's going to happen instead? If you're hiding and the enemy walks by, what can you do? Ambush. That's called, in today's wars, guerrilla warfare. Do you know who adopted this type of warfare? No, I'm thinking about Jewish people. No, Shimshon didn't. Very good. The Jewish Maccabee army in the war against the great Greek Syrian army in the Modi'in area, right, where the miracle started happening, the Maccabees would hide in caves. The Greek army would walk by, and then they would pounce on them, jump on them from the back, and kill as many as possible, and then go back into hiding. That's how Rav Beryl Wein, the great scholar and historian, explains the type of warfare the few against the many used. So that's what Hushai is saying. He'll be hiding out, and he'll pounce upon you. Can you think you're going to be surprised attacking him? The opposite, ambush, and then they'll go on him. The end of the pasuk. V'shama shomea v'amar hayta magefa ba'am asher acharei Avshalom. Gentlemen, you know what rumor will be spread? From the other side of the Jordan River, when word gets out that David and his forces are pouncing upon the army of Avshalom, what are people here going to think? That this army of Avshalom is suffering from sort of a weakness. There's like a plague going on, and the losing numbers, and so on and so forth. A panic will start. Wow. All this is part of the wise advice of Hushai. Pasuk Yud, verse 10, as we're ending his strategy here. V'hu gam ben chayil, asher libo kelev ha'aryeh, himes yimas, ki yodea kol Yisrael, ki gibor avicha, notice third time avicha, uvnei chayil asher ito. Some ask, who is Hushai referring to when he says that he is a ben chayil, he's a man of valor? Rashi says that we're talking about the one that's hearing the rumor from a distance. The hearing of the rumor that the forces of David are pouncing upon the armies of Avshalom, and even if his heart is like the heart of a lion, his heart will dissolve in fear. In other words, the Pasuk Yud is a continuation of the end of verse 9. The rumor, the listening will come out that a plague is happening, the forces are being weakened. Even if people on Avshalom's sides are men of valor, courageous people, and their hearts are as strong as a lion is, when they start hearing that David's forces is overcoming Avshalom forces, they're just simply going to their hearts will dissolve in fear, and they won't have any strength whatsoever. In other words, maybe they're going to even start thinking, all of Israel, Ki gibor avicha, your father is so strong. Uvnei chayil asher ito. There are those that even explain that maybe people will spiritually understand that, wow, this is a mistake. Avshalom taking forces, or taking the forces led by Achitophel and going to fight against his father, that's a mistake. They're losing out. Maybe this is the punishment, that he's even being punished, and therefore he will not be successful. Okay? And now we come to another major part of his advice, Pasuk Yud Aleph, verse 11. Ki ya'atzti, I have given what? Counsel. Hey asof yasef alecha kol Yisrael. My counsel, my advice is the opposite. In other words, after the rebuttal, after discounting the advice, piece after piece, strategy after strategy, knocking down the advice of Achitophel, he now gives alternative advice. You just can't be critical of someone saying your advice is no good without suggesting something better. Okay? You have to be an eitzah giver. You have to give an advice. Ki ya'atzti, my advice is this. Hey asef alecha kol Yisrael. From where to where? Midan v'ad Be'er Sheva. Advice number 1. Okay? My advice is, instead of going at nighttime, okay, let's right now mobilize all the forces of Israel. Do you know why? Do you know why he's suggesting to mobilize all the forces of Israel?
To turn tables around? Let David know that he's under attack.
It'll let David know. When you're mobilizing tens of thousands of soldiers, people know about it. It'll give David a time to hide even better, go further away, no surprise attack. Okay? So first of all, no surprise attack at night. Let's collect all the forces. It'll be all of Israel and not 12,000 forces. And this will give time for David to collect together. Okay? Ufanecha holchim bakrav. And you Avshalom, you should join the war. Oh, really? You think I should do it? You think I'm okay? Well, it's flattering. It's so flattering to tell me. Okay? Not like Achitophel that what? Said you shouldn't go. You know what? If you go, the psychology says, people will be inspirited. Soldiers will have more morale, more psychological strength. Okay? It makes a lot of sense. Okay? What else is part of the strategy? With that, we'll continue tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.